This year, we set 4 strategic goals for ourselves and sort of hyper-focused on those 4 goals. The first was improving the breadth of our digital asset content. The second was improving the customer experience. The third was adding a non-custodial wallet solution. And the fourth, dramatically improving our financial content. Believe it or not, most people had card limits, daily card limits of $500 on Uphold. We've increased them for 2 million people across the United States to $2,500 a day, $25,000 a week. We're also making it way easier to get large amounts of bank deposits onto the platform. And we've made literally hundreds of fine-grained changes to the process behind when an account gets restricted. We've removed a whole category of scenarios that used to produce an account restriction. Now they don't produce an account restriction. Instead, you have a period during which your account is still open. We've introduced an array of automations. So, today, instead of restricting your account, we will do what's called a liveness check. So we'll send you a request to your app that will just requires you to take a quick photograph of yourself. We compare that with the photo that we have on file. We're reassured it's you, and off you go. Our customer experience this year has improved really dramatically. It's not perfect by any means, but if you look at Google Play and Apple Play's ratings, we've gone from 3 to 4.8 to 4.5. In Trustpilot, we've gone from 1.8 to almost 3, which means we're almost average according to Trustpilot, but we are twice as good as Apple by that measure. An important change that's coming in a couple of weeks' time. At the moment on Uphold, if you deposit money from your US bank via the ACH network, we restrict that deposit for 65 days until you can move it to an external private crypto wallet. So in other words, a wallet on chain. On November the 7th, that restriction goes away completely. We're introducing a new fraud control system, which means that when you deposit a large amount from your US bank, you're free to move it within a few business days as soon as the funds are settled to an external crypto wallet. So that will be a big improvement. Beginning of the year, we had a terrible problem with card decline rates. All of our cards were being processed through a European processor. We've now finally switched to a US processor, and our card decline rates have halved. That's made a huge difference to us as a business, but it's also improved the experience for the vast majority of our customers. The key thing that used to drive people bananas was quite simply how quickly and readily we would restrict somebody's account for quite a minor infraction. So it could be that a velocity control had detected an unusual amount of account activity, or an amount threshold had been breached, and the account would be immediately restricted. We don't do that anymore. We now send you a note, gives you a period to respond by, and it interrupts the user experience far less than it did a year ago. It's something that user experience is something that I'm personally really passionate about, because I think you have an emotional reaction to when your account is restricted or your money is in any way, temporarily made not available to you. It's an intensely intrusive thing to do to somebody, and they have an emotional reaction to it, quite understandably. Our COO is a guy called Anthony Johnson. His sole role this year has been improving the customer experience, and I know the difference is now being felt, because he's really done a fantastic job.
Touch upon the whole issue of the security of assets in the wallet that customers hold. Are there things that you're doing this year to improve security?
There are. I mean, like every platform in the space, we're constantly playing a game of 3-dimensional chess with armies of fraudsters who are very sophisticated. The game is constantly changing, and you'll have seen, there was a settlement this week from FTX for $6 million for phishing attempts. The crooks are getting increasingly sophisticated. You put new controls in, and they learn the new controls, and they'll find a new weakness. This year, we've done a variety of things, and it's had a pretty dramatic impact. So one of the things we've done is put liveness checks in. So now, if you want to withdraw funds over a certain limit, we actually check it's you withdrawing the money. We've introduced mandatory SMS 2FA to all accounts that's set up. So now it's much more difficult when you'd need control of somebody's email account and their phone number to compromise the account. That makes life much harder. The issue with making accounts secure is a large cohort of people, especially in the crypto space, who want as little control and invasion as possible. So you're constantly striking this balance between advising people to set up all of the security features, mandating that they just have to do it. It's a condition of having the account. And I think, like a lot of platforms in our space, we're reluctantly having to go to the mandatory approach because the risks are so great.
That makes sense. And you're right, you're not the only one that is moving in that direction of higher mandated security procedures. I'd like to maybe just end this thread by asking if there are any product enhancements or new product features that you might give us an inkling about that haven't been launched but will be in the near future launching.
Well, I think one of the most important things we're focused on at the moment is staking, allowing people to earn rewards on their digital assets. We're about to launch next week a staking program that we believe is the best in the industry. It's the only one that you can take part in and pay 0% commission. Nobody else offers 0% commission staking. It also offers the widest range of stakeable digital assets. We're offering it on 23. These are proof of stake assets. Unlike a lot of our rivals, we never loan out customer assets in order to generate a yield. So this is all network function staking. The assets never leave Uphold. And thirdly, we offer what we believe are the best APYs in the industry. So by basically saying we're not going to take any commission, we've been able to plow our share back into increasing the APYs we're offering. So, our APYs are up to 25%. So staking is one area that we're super focused on. Another area is we're going to be the first platform to integrate all of the layer 2 networks, which will happen later this year. And looking ahead, we're looking to introduce a particular kind of order, which is called a contingent trailing stop, which sounds very technical and boring, but it's potentially extremely powerful. Nobody else offers it in the digital asset space. And what it does is allow you to buy an asset and then set a threshold, be it 3%, 4%, 7%. When the system detects a drop in the price of that asset, it will trigger a sell order. And it's a very powerful order that exists in the equity space. And what it allows you to do is protect the majority of your upside while protecting you from a sudden downside correction, which in the crypto space, where there's such volatility, is super interesting. If you can lock in most of the upside from crypto volatility while dialing out the downside, you've got a very, very powerful product. So that's something we're introducing early in the new year.
So on those stop losses that you can place on your account, I presume you have to designate a stable coin into which proceeds in a liquidation, go into? How would that work mechanically?
No, we're not using stable coins. We just have automatic conversion into fiat on the platform.
I see.
So we literally go into, in Europe, it would be termed e-money. But it would be held in ring-fenced bank accounts in your name, basically.
Those are all super cool. I'm excited about the staking. I assume that there's a wait list for that?
There is a wait list. I think we've opened it up to the majority of the wait list at this point. We announce it next Tuesday, when we've opened it up to a limited number of people and have seen really fantastic way of acquiring new customers. Basically, the main reason you would move cryptocurrency to a different custodial venue is because you can earn higher return on it. So we see it as a very important, customer acquisition tool for us.
Let's shift to 30,000 foot level and talk about Uphold as a business, as an enterprise. So obviously, you came in, talk about a propitious time to come into the CEO position, right? Because the whole market, and not just the crypto market, all markets basically going to hell in a handbasket. Tell us about how Uphold is navigating this very difficult time, going through those challenges, and how do you feel your balance sheet is, what condition it's in, and is it strong enough to weather the difficulties and get you to that better place where the market turns?
Yeah, I think we're in a very strong position. We've seen some of our most aggressive competitors be taken out of business or, temporarily completely out of the game. We've seen Celsius go, we've seen Voyager go. If you look at what happened to those companies, fundamentally, a large part of it was about nothing to do inherently with digital assets. It's bad lending decisions and exposing assets to unknown risks. We're very lucky in the sense that given the complexity of what we do, we're a relatively small company with a relatively low cost base. Our burn is tiny. We're in robust financial health. The business this year is now ticking up quite nicely. I mean, it's been a pretty transformational year for Uphold because we've gone from covering like 72 assets in January in the United States to 253 today. We've gone from having 2 assets that were exclusive to us in the United States to 47 today. And at the same time, that dramatic expansion of the range of assets that we cover in the consumer space, we've also got an enterprise side to our business. So on the enterprise side of the business, which is run by Robin O'Connell, who you know, there the use case is really, really super interesting. So we're closing sales in 4 verticals. One is banks and financial institutions who want to white label what we do. A second is gaming companies who are now using cryptocurrencies for payments to their members. A number of gaming companies are going from Web 2 to Web 3 models, which means they're replacing in-game digital assets, magical swords and cloaks and skins that have no value outside the game. That's Web 2 to Web 3, where those assets are NFTs, and we're acting as the payment backbone for several of the biggest gaming companies in that space. That's a beautiful, scalable business for us, and it places us at the center of what are pretty vast flows of payments. It's got nothing to do with crypto speculation. It's got everything to do with moving money across the blockchain. So we've got white labeling, we've got gaming. And the third vertical is reward systems. So what's very exciting for us is we're seeing an increasing number of companies now adopting crypto as a reward mechanism. So we were speaking to housing developers in Texas a month ago who are developing tens of thousands of homes, and they're embedding into the architecture crypto payments that will reward homeowners for generating a certain amount of electricity through solar, for example. And there are other examples of similar schemes. Uphold's unique account architecture is extremely well suited to that, to support those kinds of businesses, because every Uphold account has an infinite number of sub-accounts. So if you're the developer, you can have the master account, and all of the sub-accounts represent individual homeowners, and we can connect fiat payments in the fiat world with digital assets and cryptocurrency payments. That's a wonderfully scalable business. And once again, it's about the fundamental utility case of crypto, which is moving value more easily and more seamlessly and more cheaply than traditional finance. So that's the third dimension to our enterprise business. And the fourth is DeFi payments. So we're about to launch a new product that will make it super easy for customers to load fiat funds into DeFi projects directly. You don't have to set up an Uphold account. You can do it in a matter of seconds. It's fully compliant. And we do see that being a really important part of what we're doing going forward. So the enterprise side of our business is also benefiting from the fact that what's been lost this year from the narrative is that, yes, okay, there's been a brush fire. Lots of weaker projects in the crypto space have been wiped out. There's a very difficult macroeconomic environment that has sort of eradicated a lot of the speculation on digital assets that was going on last year. But what's emerged in its place this year is it's super clear now that regulators all around the world, and especially in the UK, Europe, US, Singapore and certain parts of Asia, they're now making rules for crypto. They're no longer standing on the sidelines hoping it will all go away. And that greater regulatory clarity and certainty is encouraging more and more companies and more serious people with serious projects to build using blockchain technology. And everybody who does that needs to connect fiat to the world of digital assets. And so Uphold, sits in the intersection of those two worlds, the old world of fiat and the new world of crypto and digital assets. So what's been incredibly helpful this year is seeing developments such as, I'll just name a couple of examples, but in the UK, you've seen in the Queen's speech, it's soon going to be the case that NFTs can represent financial obligations. That is simply a transformational development because it means that NFTs can now play a part in things like trade finance and represent financial obligations. That's a huge part of traditional finance that now has a clear path to migrating to the world of blockchain technology. There's a new crypto network that we work very closely with in this space called XDC. Fabulously interesting project, squarely focused on trade finance, where trillions of dollars move every year. And they now have a real traction, and it's backed by the fact that they've got much greater regulatory clarity in many parts of the world. The first ever bill of lading in the trade finance space was minted on the XDC blockchain in Singapore earlier this year. So I think while the headlines have been about the collapse in crypto values, that's about speculation. The fundamental utility and purpose of blockchain technology and crypto has never been stronger, and it's been strengthened this year by all kinds of regulatory developments that make it clear that the technology is going to be embraced and regulated rather than extinguished.
That's actually a really important and profound point. And for those of us that are retail customers of Uphold and use it as such, it's probably an aspect of your business that isn't as readily apparent. By it, I mean the growth and evolution of your enterprise business and basically the application of what you've built to serve retail customers like us into a payments infrastructure offering that can then be offered to institutions. And that allows you to grow your customer base indirectly, your payment and processing flows indirectly, and contribute, I think, a lot to your revenues overall. Maybe today it's not a big slice of your overall Uphold revenue pie because these things necessarily take longer to mature and to nurture than the retail business. But if you were to wager a guess, Simon, 3 years out, what percentage of Uphold's revenues would be generated by that enterprise business?
That's a great question. My hope and belief is that within 3 to 5 years, between 60 and 70% of our revenue could come from enterprise. And today it's less than 20%. I genuinely believe the next 3 to 5 years will see mass migration of a lot of finance towards blockchain technology. We're already seeing it. I saw an amazing new ad exchange called Alchemy, built out of London, gets rid of a lot of the inefficiencies and questionable practices of the traditional advertising market. If you're Marks and Spencer or Walmart to participate in this market, you need to buy an ADS token. It sits on Constellation, one of the most fascinating new projects around. I hesitate to even call it a blockchain because it's actually a hypergraph. But it's a very, very powerful new entrant into this space. And that we're seeing now really serious companies getting involved with that ad exchange. That's just one tiny example at a time when there's still a lot of regulatory uncertainty. I think what's fascinating in Europe at the moment is there's now clearly a competition between the European Union and the UK to see which can become the most crypto-friendly environment. So we went through the hellish FCA process last year to become one of only 4 large trading venues that got crypto asset firm status. And this year, the FCA, the dynamic has changed. It's very clear that the mindset has gone from crypto is a dangerous space that we need to be very, very wary of to this year. The whole tenor of regulatory oversight in the UK is far more friendly and forgiving. And it's because fundamentally, my thesis at least, I don't know this to be a fact, but my thesis is that the European Union are fundamentally competing with each other to become the home of this exciting new high growth industry.
So listen, I'm going to turn this over in a minute to Q&A with our members, Simon, so they can ask you questions directly. But I'd like to end by just asking you this question. Let's do a little bit of a mind experiment and imagine that we're in a market where the IPO window has reopened. You as the CEO now have the opportunity to take Uphold public. And you're sitting in front of me. I'm the portfolio manager at Fidelity, and you're pitching your IPO. Tell me the top 3 reasons why I ought to invest in Uphold.
Oh, that's putting me on the spot. Well, I think I would say we are a Web3 bank built on blockchain rails. We have a very fast growing enterprise business that's infinitely scalable virtually at very low cost, because our enterprise clients bring us literally millions of customers free of charge. And I would say that our architecture is completely unique. So we don't just have one order book, we have access to 26 order books because we're plugged into all of the major crypto exchanges. And that means that we have a very material advantage in the sense that, first of all, we can smart route orders and get better price discovery for our retail clients. Secondly, we've got superior liquidity because we have access to 26 different order books where we can sell assets. We were one of the few trading venues where you could continue trading Luna, for example, during the recent crisis, pretty much uninterrupted. And thirdly, that architecture allows us to cover more assets more quickly, so we can be much more agile in the market. But the final point I would make is the real reason you should invest in Uphold is that we are going to become the center of people's financial lives. We believe that people won't want one app for crypto, another app for equity, another app for commodities. Uphold brings all of the asset classes together in one environment. It allows you to trade from any asset into any other asset, even across asset classes, in one single move. And what's coming in the new year is the ability to use any asset, any balance you hold, from physical gold to Bitcoin to US dollars, to do things in your everyday financial life, such as pay bills. In the new year, you'll soon be able to get your salary paid into Uphold, and you'll be able to say, okay, I'd like 5% in Bitcoin, 70% in USD, 15% in equities. Anything you hold on Uphold can be spent instantly over a debit card, or it can be used to pay a bill. And our obsession is on ease of use. We want you to be able to do that in fewer steps with fewer points of friction than on any other app. You may have just seen this week we introduced Apple Pay and Google Pay. So Binance doesn't have it, Coinbase doesn't have it. On Uphold, you can now fund your account with Apple Pay and Google Pay. It's literally 2 clicks. You no longer have to link a card at all. And the thing I forgot to mention earlier was, when you asked me what we're about to launch, next week we launched the new Uphold card, which pays 4% back on every purchase in XRP. That will be rolled out across the United States and the UK next Wednesday.
What a great way to end our interview, Simon. So let me turn you over.
So there are a bunch of Q&As, and there is a bunch of questions on chat and comments, but we do like participation. So whoever actually wants to ask and interact with Simon directly, please let us know and come onto the screen. As everyone is waking up and putting their hands up and deciding who needs to come over, Irene, can you start with some Q&A that we can answer, that Simon can answer?
Okay, so we have a question from James Long. Uphold unboxed stats daily, the XRP is top seller at 87% or better buying. Also see where Ripple is buying a gross amount of XRP on the OTC market. May you comment on then why XRP trades basically sideways?
I feel that question is outside my realm of expertise and I hesitate to comment on it. I'm sorry to duck it, but I'd rather duck it than say something daft.
James Long again, is our current Uphold card transferring into the new 4% card, or do we need to apply to the new one?
You will automatically be rolled across into the new card, so you don't need to apply. In fact, the card will be embedded in your Uphold account in the Uphold app. So the old card, as James will recall, required a separate app. You no longer have to have a separate app. You simply swipe right on your transaction screen, and then you access your virtual card and can start spending right away.
Any re-hypothecation of customer assets, any similarities and or learnings or improvements in the management of funds as a result of the downfall of several of your competitors?
You know, it's funny. A year ago, Uphold was open to the criticism of being a bit of a tortoise in this space. We had a lot of our rivals growing extremely quickly and taking very high levels of risk. And fundamentally, a lot of them are not still around. And our rather conservative model, we feel, has been vindicated. What do I mean by our conservative model? Number one, we're the only platform in this space that publishes our assets and liabilities in real time on a public blockchain. What does that mean? Sorry, not on a blockchain, on a public website. It's hugely significant because you know as a user that your money is always there and you can always take it out. We never lend out customer assets to third parties for any reason. And if you look at the major casualties of this period in the industry, most of them are related to poor lending decisions. then they were exposing their customers to risks that their customers didn't understand. So we have a super conservative policy of we don't lend out any assets, and we're completely transparent with our assets and liabilities. Not only overall on an aggregated basis, we don't just use a dollar denominated equivalence. We actually make sure that each asset is 100% backed by the underlying asset that it represents. So we hold ourselves to a very strict standard in making sure that our assets match our liabilities.
You mentioned NFT skins in gaming revenue scaling. How does the Apple tax affect Uphold's business model on this revenue pillar?
It's a great question, a very timely question. The answer is I don't know, and we're looking at it, but kudos to you for bringing it up. What I can say is we do see NFTs as one of the most important parts of our 3 to 5 year future. I confidently predict that is going to be an extremely important part of our business on both the retail and the enterprise side in the coming years. There's just no doubt about that. It's extraordinary to me that, UK is now recognizing NFTs in UK law, and people forget that, English law is still informative. It informs a lot of different legal systems around the world. That means you'll get this viral, I believe, this viral recognition that NFTs can represent financial obligations. That is transformational.
Any plans to upgrade the software to automatically add how much has been invested into a particular asset, cost of that asset, and profit of the investment at that time of review? Is there a way to see this other than manually figuring it out?
Yes, and I hear where you're coming from. It is a bafflingly complex challenge, and we've spent a lot of time this year tackling it. So 2 things are going to happen. First, in the coming weeks, you'll see gains and losses appear as part of the app window. The second thing is we've done an integration with TaxBit that will allow us to generate tax information for people at the end of the year, so they don't have to worry about it. And that again is due for completion next month. So from next year, you'll get automatic, gains and loss calculations.
Will you be offering the use of YubiKey for 2FA?
That is an interesting question. I don't know the answer to it. I do know that we are planning to introduce an Apple Passkey as a way of making it, accounts more secure and creating a much more seamless experience for people. We think Apple Passkey will render a lot of traditional biometric sign-on methods redundant.
Will you be able to move FLR immediately when the airdrop takes place? How is Uphold preparing for DeFi?
We are aiming to allow people to move it very shortly after it goes live. Are working on that at the moment. Actually, it's one of the things that we're most keen to support. I can't give you a definitive answer on it because our engineers are looking at that particular issue right now.
Anonymous attendee, how do we apply for the Uphold card?
The answer is you don't need to apply for the Uphold card. You just need to open an Uphold account and it will magically appear in your app. You just need to swipe right from next Wednesday and you'll see it. And all you have to do is toggle a switch to say enable and you're off to the races.
That's excellent. And
That's
a nice
fantastic.
comment from Nathan. As a customer and investor, I appreciate that Uphold sent me the proper end of year tax forms. I didn't receive such paperwork from Kraken.
Question from Ray saying, can we get XRP to magically appear? The answer is you can if you spend on the Uphold card. And you'll find that.
There you go. Spend and swipe right.
Any plans to integrate for Coinly as well, like TaxBit?
Not as yet, but it is again something that's under discussion.
What is the limit on this Uphold card? Is it tied to the balance that you have with Uphold?
It is tied to the balance you have with Uphold. That's correct. The limit on it, I can't remember the spend limit. I think it's 2,500 a day, but don't hold me to that because I'm not sure.
James Love wanted to come and ask some questions in person. No?
I saw somebody ask about withdrawal limit. The answer to that question is yes, we are going to raise withdrawal limits. Historically, we had very, very conservative limits because frankly, our fraud controls lacked sophistication. This year, we've very materially improved those controls and we have introduced liveness checks. So liveness checks means that when you withdraw, we ask you to take a photograph of yourself, basically. And that means that we have much greater security of knowing that it's really you when you withdraw your money. That opens up the ability for us to to be more confident in our withdrawal limits.
Thanks for having me on. I believe you answered all my questions. There was the one about, I brought up Starlink, Elon Musk's rollout of the internet, banking the unbanked. And I just wondered if you kind of like keep track of the areas that are signing up with Starlink, that you see an uptick of new customers on Uphold.
That's it. That's a really interesting point. The funny thing about Uphold is we operate in 150 countries, but where we make our money and where there's the most engagement, it's a relatively small number of territories. By far the most important to us is the US. US folks seem to love what we do. They love the simplicity of the service. And I think they love the breadth of assets that we cover. The other area of very high uptake for us is South America. South America, obviously, a lot of people want to get out of unstable local currencies and into other forms of asset. So that historically has been important to us. But I will monitor it. Really interesting point.
Right. Well, thank you for doing all that you do. And I'm sure Uphold is cash flow positive, correct? And you can't comment on any future valuations.
I can tell you is that given the market, we're doing extraordinarily well.
Just one more question that I'd actually like to ask from Michael Woods. There is a fear in the market about hacking and people are taking their tokens to cold storage. How are you going to combat that?
I think, we've always taken security incredibly importantly at Uphold. We spoke earlier about user experience. One of the reasons the user experience was so poor, we were just super strict about things like security and compliance. And it was probably, too black and white. It was too stringent, but, it's something that we obsess over. We've got a large InfoSec team. This year, we've made even more enhancements. We're very aware of, the flight to private wallets in light of the problems a lot of other exchanges have got into. Acutely recognize that. It's something that we ourselves this year haven't really experienced, interestingly. And I go back to, a unique part of our model. We simply don't loan out people's assets. We don't expose them to risks that some of our other competitors do. And we give them a window on our transparency page that they can see in real time on a public website that all of our liabilities are covered by corresponding assets. And I think that does really set us out from our competitors. It's just a safer home for you to keep digital assets.
Thank you so much, Simon and Joe, for putting this together. It's been very insightful. I really thank you for your assistance. Simon, congratulations on being named one of the fastest, number one, as the fastest growing company by Fast Track in San Francisco. Congratulations on that.
Well, thank you.
We hope that you continue that into 2023, and we will be biting at your heels here. So watch out for Linqto trying to catch up with you.
Well,